Allison. It's nice to see you. I'm so glad that you're here to join me for my first episode of A Taste of Therapy TV with my partner Manja TV. I'm so thrilled to be here. For those of you that might not know me or know who I am a food therapist. So what that means is I use food and cooking and bringing people together to cook recipes that they can do in their own homes to fix all the problems in their relationship. Because let's face it, we all are in relationships, we all have problems, and having a good recipe is the best way to solve those problems. I am a therapist and I am a chef, and I've combined the two together for my business. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm just so thrilled that you're here. So let's get started. Okay, so today we're doing my pomegranate feta guacamole. It's one of my favorite recipes because it talks about communication. I would say about 95% of the couples I work with struggle with communication. I know that I struggle with it with my husband, and I guarantee you do too, right? Let's be honest here. So communication is the foundation to a solid relationship. And I tell everybody this all the time. If you know how to communicate effectively, you will have a good relationship. Hands down, you have to know how to do this. So this recipe is the trick to do it better. It's a great way to practice these skills in the kitchen. And it helps you to learn how to communicate in a healthy way so that when you're out of the kitchen, you can communicate better. And that's the whole point of this. So in this recipe, what you need to do is you're going to have to go into the kitchen with your partner, and you got to follow it exactly as it's written. So sorry, if you don't like to talk, too bad, you got to do it anyway. And so you're going to have to decide who's going to be person one and who's going to be person two, okay? So for the sake of this show, I'm going to be person one, and I'm going to show you what to do. So for person one, what you're going to do, can you guys see my things here? I've got all the ingredients for traditional guacamole. All right, so I'm going to cut my avocado. Now, when I do my avocados, I always cut them like this in half. And I take a knife and I slam it right into the pit, just like that. Then you give it a little twist, and look at that, it comes right out. Simple. Okay. So for person one, what you're going to do is you're going to de-seed, just like I did, 2 avocados and put them into a bowl. And during this step, you're going to practice what I like to call my first pillar of communication, and that is being an engaged listener. Now, you're probably thinking, what the hell is that? I don't know what that means. Okay, so an engaged listener is a big fancy therapy term for just being present. It means listening to your partner, making eye contact, not being distracted by these cell phones, all that stuff. So, and then also the big takeaway here is providing a summary. So while you're doing this step, person one, you're going to ask your partner this following question. You're going to say, what are 3 things that you love the most and why? Okay? So you're going to ask that question, and your partner, person two, is going to give you their response. And you're going to have to listen and be engaged and repeat back to them the 3 things that they said. Okay? Sounds pretty easy, right? Yeah, it is, I promise. Okay, so I've got my avocados in here. I'm just going to go ahead and put the rest of them in here. This recipe calls for 4 avocados, but if you're obsessed with guacamole like I am, you can just do more. That's fine too. Okay, just gonna scoop these guys in here. All right, and I love that it's the middle of winter and I'm making guacamole. Love it. Okay, so I've got them all in here, and I'm gonna mash these up, and we're gonna move on to the second step. So person one from my next step is gonna head into the second pillar of communication, which is the nonverbals, right? So these are huge when it comes to communicating with anybody, really, because if you're not looking like you're present and open and willing to receive the communication that's coming at you, no one's going to want to talk to you. So you have to look like you want to talk to somebody. And I see this all the time with couples. It actually makes me laugh. Like when someone comes in and they're like, how are you doing? And they respond like, oh, I'm fine. But they look like they want to scratch out your eyeballs, right? So clearly when that happens, they're not fine. And if you try to communicate with them, it's not going to go well. So you have to make sure that your nonverbals and their nonverbals are neutral. So for this step, all right, get behind here. We're going to move on. So for this step, the person one is going to squeeze some lime juice. So it's going to be 1 whole lime into this. So squeeze in here. And during this, you're actually going to hold hands. That's the best way to keep your nonverbals neutral. So you're going to have 1 hand on the lime and 1 hand on your partner. And that's a great way to make eye contact, to be engaged, and to just really be present, okay? So during this step too, you're going to ask them the big question of, what is your big life goal? And you might be surprised what you hear. You never know. Okay, And then for person 2, they're going to add the garlic. I've got 2 cloves of garlic that I mashed up earlier, some cilantro, and 1 tablespoon of salt. Now don't worry if you're not writing down this recipe. I have it on my website and you can get it later after the show. My website, just so you know, is tasteoftherapy.com. Okay, I'm going to mash this up and we're going to move on to the third pillar, which is the third step of this super easy recipe. And this one is my favorite by far because people always look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them to do this, but you're going to have to do this. So for this step, the third pillar is being non-judgmental. So you've got to keep those emotions in check. You cannot be stressed out when you're doing cooking therapy, and you certainly cannot be stressed out when you're trying to communicate with somebody. Because if that's the case, you're clearly not going to be communicating, and you're going to go straight into fighting. So you've got to keep those emotions in check. So for this step, we're going to grate our onion. This is the third part of this recipe. So person 1 is going to physically grate half a yellow onion right into here. This is one of my little chef tricks. I like to actually grate the onion because the juice gets in there with all the onion flavor, and then you don't get the big chunks of onion in the guacamole. Okay, so during this step, you're going to ask your partner, what is the one thing that's the most weird that you find attractive about me? Now, yes, that's a loaded question. I want you to ask that, and I want you to listen to their answer and not be judgmental. You cannot react. You cannot have this knee-jerk, like, what in the world? You can't do that. You just have to be open and honest and hear what your partner says. That's the third step. So those are the 3 pillars of communication, guys. It's being non-judgmental. It's making sure your nonverbals are, open and ready. And the first one was the, I've already forgotten what it is. Being an engaged listener. That's it. So what's so great about this recipe is that you're able to do this together. It's simple to do, and it helps you practice these skills. So what I challenge you to do with your partner is to go into the kitchen and make this dish, right? Do it exactly how I showed you today. But I then want you to, the next time you're having a hard time communicating or getting into a fight, make this dish again. Go back into the kitchen, but instead of asking my questions, insert in what it is you really want to talk about. It works for every kind of conversation you need to have, and that's what I love about this. Okay. Oh, and then I forgot, the best part of this dish has pomegranate seeds and feta cheese. Have you ever had guacamole like this? It's amazing. Oh my gosh. You just dump in a half a cup of pomegranate seeds right in here, and you sprinkle the feta right on top, and there you go. That's it. So that's my guacamole. That's the cooking therapy process. It's all about cooking together, having fun in the kitchen, and having these big conversations. That's what this is all about. And that's why I force you to talk about stuff at each step of the recipe, because it helps you to process and helps you to talk. So that's the recipe. I want to hear what you guys are saying. I'm very curious. Yeah, non-confrontational. It's exactly right, Bob. It's so easy to get confrontational and to just immediately stop communicating and start fighting. So that's why I hope that when you make this recipe with your partner, when you're not in a fight, you can communicate better. That's the whole point of it. Well, I appreciate you all tuning in, and please check out my website, and I'm always open for asking questions, or you can find me all over social media. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. Just search A Taste of Therapy and you will find me. Thank you so much to Manja TV for allowing me to be on their channel, and I look forward to coming next time. Bye, thank you.